Hello. Given that it's Remembrance Sunday, the day that this goes out, today we're going to talk about these things. We used to wear these all the time in the United States
At this time of year.
at this time of year, and obviously we were teachers, and our students would ask us why, and we'd explain. And the peculiar thing is that they began in the US,
Yep.
and nobody there wears them anymore.
So stay tuned to hear the full story. So one of the reasons we wanted to do this video is because this time of year, the 11th of the 11th, is observed very differently between the two countries that we've been living in, the UK and the US.
That's correct, yes.
And so how we observe it, even when we were in America, was we had a lot of people asking us a lot of questions about it. So as Paul said, as it's that time of year, we thought this would be the perfect time to do a video about it.
Yep.
But I will say Paul will do most of the talking here because this is history man at his best.
Thank you, science colleague. The poppy is used as a symbol of remembrance because they were the first flowers to return to the churned up trenches in Flanders and France in the First World War.
If I can just interject, what is it that we're remembering?
Well, that's a good point. We're remembering initially, it starts in the 1920s with the remembering of people who died in the Great War, which was, from a British and Commonwealth perspective, 880,000 men. So once the United States became involved in 1917 and they sent troops in 1918, it became a global conflict. It was already a global conflict, but the US lost a significant number of soldiers as well. In 1915, a Canadian soldier called John McClure wrote a poem called In Flanders Fields. And in the poem, it says, "In Flanders Fields, row and row, the poppies grow." And the poppies were the first flowers or they're really the only ones to thrive within that churned up environment of the trenches.
And because they're blood red, it kind of also
it's a poignant symbol.
Yes.
So after the war in 1920, an American academic thought that as a sign of remembrance, it would be a nice token to wear instead of just the black armband, which was very popular back in the day to mark a sign of mourning, a red poppy as a symbol of the war dead from 1918.
And this is still when the US observed Armistice the way that we observe Armistice.
On the 11th of November, right. Because the Great War ended at 11 o'clock on the 11th day of the 11th month, 1918. Now, the American Legion, the veterans organization, adopted the poppy as a symbol in 1920. And in 1921, a French woman brought the idea to the Royal British Legion, and they adopted it as well. So that sets the ground, really. The US invented the idea of the poppy as a sign of remembrance. But by the time we were living there, this had long since passed. So how did that come about, this irony? Well, after the Second World War, where a significant number of American soldiers were killed fighting in the Pacific, the United States moved its main military remembrance day to Veterans Day.
Right, so
not Armistice
the
Day.
11th of November now in the US is known as Veterans Day, but there is a separate day for Memorial, isn't
Memorial Day is at the beginning of summer.
Yes, so end of May time.
End of May. And the idea of that in the US was to honour all living and dead veterans, not just those of World War I. Now, this cultural divergence can be blamed, I think, because of the significant numbers. Sorry, was that a bit strong, that, was it? Wrong hole?
Wrong hole.
All right.
Keep going.
Okay. So, because Britain and its Commonwealth lost a significant more number of soldiers in World War One, the idea of it remaining as the time of remembrance for the conflicts after the Great War kind of stuck with us. So it's always stayed as that time of remembrance. And after the war, despite the apathy of the government, there was a public subscription to build a national war memorial, and this became the cenotaph at Whitehall.
Mm-hmm.
And every Sunday, closest to the 11th of November, a remembrance service is marked at the cenotaph.
Could this also be to do with how America was a bit more removed because the conflicts didn't necessarily
It didn't happen on their doorstep.
turf, yeah.
Yes, that's another that act of that distance between the America and Europe, and significantly up until 1917, there was a good contingent of the American people that wanted nothing to do with the war in Europe.
Right.
It was only Germany's involvement with Mexico and the sinking of the Lusitania that really pushed them into the war. Because of Britain's empire and Commonwealth, that meant all around the world there were people affected by the First World War and then the Second World War. And this buoyed the sales of Poppies, which went to the various veterans organisations of British Legion. There's a Anzac in New Zealand and Australia, and one in Canada as well. There's a Canadian version of it. And those sales of Poppies every year went to a charity to support ex-servicemen.
Or families of
ex-service.
And it's still the symbol. Like you see every remembrance, you still have every nation that was fighting at the time all bring their version of a poppy wreath to the cenotaph, don't they?
Yeah. Now, it seems to have been supplanted in the US. It could be down to the Cold War, I don't know, with the flag, the national flag.
Yes.
So at American war cemeteries like Arlington, they'll plant individual flags.
And you see people do this on a local level. Like we would drive past local, even churches and cemeteries where we lived in Charlotte,
where there was a veteran
who would go out purposely and plant those flags. But like you say, the iconography changed to be more America specific, didn't it?
And it would seem that in America, the focusing it on Memorial Day and not so much on the
Veterans
Day, it seems to have a different emphasis there.
But it's also, they don't do the 2-minute silence. So even if the Sunday that you are observing Remembrance is not the 11th, even if you're in your workplace, I remember when I was a teacher over here, you would always have a 2-minute silence at 11 o'clock. It didn't matter where you were or what you were doing. On the 11th, the actual day, you also had this significance. And that just, when we first were there and it didn't happen, we were just really dumbfounded because we were quiet, weren't we?
Yeah.
I think we went silent and then nobody else was.
But this is one of the things that separates the two nations. You know, there's a big difference. America was the first place I ever worked on a Good Friday. So, you know, there's traditions and things that are very, very different.
Yeah. And the things that are done for veterans, and even on Memorial Day in the US, pardon me, don't seem to be as nationally organized, do they?
No.
They seem to be things that are maybe put on by a local organization, or maybe if you lived in a bigger city, there may be a parade or something. But
they have different veterans organizations,
right? It's not a cohesive thing, is it?
Now, the US does have some amazing war memorials,
right,
in the capital that are you know, obviously poignant places of reflection, but it seems not to be a shared grief of the nation.
And part of me wonders as well, because in Washington D.C. there are these separate memorials. There's like the World War One and World War Two, and then there's Vietnam and Korean and all these other things. I wonder if that did, in some respect, inspire the Arboretum over here a little bit to have a more spread out.
To cover show every conflict. But the idea, I mean,
the contributions of everybody.
We'll get to it later. Pretty much every conflict since World War One is reflected within the Sunday service at the cemetery. But I think it boils down to it's nearer to us physically. Not in, it's not, it doesn't matter the amount of time that's passed, it's because it happened very close and because it affected pretty much everybody in Britain.
And do you think as well, being a history teacher over there, that it is more part of our curriculum to reflect back on the first two big wars, the world wars, more than in the US?
Yeah. I taught world history, so I thought it was very important to teach it as a world subject, whereas people would teach about World War One, but they would just focus on it for like a couple of days,
or focus on the American aspect of it rather than
from 1917 to 1919. My poor students had to suffer the whole thing.
It's not suffering. I mean, I can give you an anecdote here, and I may have mentioned this in the previous video, but when I was doing my 1-year stint before I met you in a place called Wallace Rose Hill, there was a teacher that came in and used my room during my planning, and he was from the local community college, and he was teaching 20th century history, and most of the time I tried to stay out of it. I didn't try and correct him, but he got to this point where he said that Dunkirk wasn't the big deal that the British like to make it out to be. And I had to stand up and make my feelings, correct him, should I say. So I do feel that there is maybe not the same training on how to teach the significance of the First and Second World Wars within the scope of American history even.
Maybe it's me. I don't know. But moving back to the way things are remembered here, the landmark dates, so like the 50th anniversary of D-Day or the 100th anniversary of the first day of the Somme, were marked as important things, which they are to here, but they're not really to the United States.
And I think it's also because, you've had a lot of feedback from previous, past pupils, but also their parents, that when you talked about specific areas like Lancashire you come from, and how like whole towns could have just lost all of the men in one of these battles, and how that is not really reflected so much in the American side of the war.
That's something that's seared into a community for as long as those people were around, and the people, their children were around, and it's just remember, Accrington never really recovered, did it, from losing the best proportion of its young men. But it's the same in France. France lost a massive amount of people, and I'm not sure how they mark it, but
I'm just taking it from the respect of, if you look at it from a familial connection, you have probably if you go down your street here in the UK, you will have many people who can go back 1 or 2 generations who have been afflicted by these great wars. Whereas in America, there's maybe more of the Korean War or the Vietnam War that is something that they talk about, that their uncles or grandfathers or whatever.
It's not just that; it's just the presence of it, because out of the 1900 towns, villages, and cities of Great Britain, of the United Kingdom, there's only 62 places that don't have a war memorial because all their men returned. So every town has got a little war memorial or a cenotaph. Schools have them. Workplaces have them. Big engineering works, where my granddad worked, they had a roll of honour. sixth form I went to had been a grammar school, and they had a big roll of honour for the soldiers of World War One and World War Two who'd been pupils. So it's closer to us.
Yeah, and I do think this is also, that you touched on it a bit there, but I would say this is reflected in some of Europe. Just some of my experiences. My mum and dad got a posting to Brussels, and you would have school visits to the local. I'll try and speak up a bit here. Our wash machine's going. So we had a few concentration camps within the area, and you would have school visits to those concentration camps. You would actually have the military personnel were told to go to these concentration camps as well. So I do think it's kept alive quite a lot.
In Holland, around where Operation Market Garden took place, there are big Commonwealth War cemeteries there, and local schools give their children a project to look after one of the graves and find out about the soldier that lived there.
I would also say that we taught with a lady who was of
she's
Dutch.
From Holland.
She was from Dutch, and she felt very much like us that in America it seems to be a bit more removed. People seem to be a bit more removed from this time of year, and she felt very much like us in that this was a more solemn time, as opposed to how it is observed in the United States.
Notable examples of our version of Remembrance would be the ceramic poppies they had in the tower back in 2014, was it? Or 2018, I can't remember.
I know they travelled all around, didn't they?
Yeah, they were so popular.
We first noticed them because our friend in Australia had them, and they were all stretched out on a beach, weren't they, where she lives?
And then there were the "We're Here Because We're Here" thing that they did in 2016, where the soldiers in costume walks around all the city centres,
and you can still see silhouettes everywhere, can't you, of that time of those soldiers.
And then every Saturday night before Remembrance Sunday, they always have the Festival of Remembrance on from the 8th floor of the hall, where British Legion do their thing, and it ends with a rain of poppies from the ceiling.
But I also feel that some of it is also down to how, and whether you like them or not, the royal family, they do so many things, don't they, in probably the 2 weeks or even the month of coming up to Remembrance. They go around to the troops, they go around to different various nations.
The monarch always places the wreath representing them at the centre. So why is it still resonate today? Well, it's evolved. Every conflict that Britain and the Commonwealth have been involved with since the Great War is now marked on that day as well.
Yeah.
And the other thing that we always tried to let everybody in America know when we were explaining it was the representation, worldwide representation at the cenotaph from all the places in the Commonwealth.
Yes. I mean, once we, for the people that listen to us, and, we didn't try to bore them, but I would say everybody that I spoke to, whether a student or an adult, when we explained what happens on the Remembrance Sunday, they thought it was a fantastic thing. They thought they wondered why they didn't do it in America, because it seemed to be such a fantastic way, as sad as it makes us, because he's in tears thinking about it right now, but it is something that pulls us together as a nation, doesn't it? As nations, and we're still within the Commonwealth, it's something that still holds us together.
Yeah.
And I think it's getting more and more. I don't know if this is just me. It feels like it's getting more and more sad because we are losing so many of those original First World War veterans. I mean, I don't think there's any left there, is there?
There's no World War One veterans left, and there's precious few
of the World War
II.
So, and in some respects, it's good. We don't have any more global conflicts. That's probably a good thing. But still, it feels like it could be that, with the loss of these first-hand experiences, that some of that might go, that recognition might go again.
Unfortunately, that's not the case, because we went down there just nearly 20 years ago, didn't we, to watch your dad March.
Yes.
Nearly. I said nearly. It's not 20 years. It
Yeah,
was nearly
yeah.
20 years. About 2008. Because Susie's dad was in the Navy, and he was involved in the Malayan conflict.
Well, he was involved in two. He was involved in the Suez conflict as well as the Malay conflict.
Yeah.
So
he marched as part of his
association,
which was the Minesweepers.
Yeah, the Ton class. So all the ships that end in Ton, who Prince, but now King, but Prince Charles, when he was Prince Charles, he was the patron of the society. So the first time my dad marched, we didn't go down, but we did the second time.
Yeah.
And it was really, I think it was.
We watched him on TV.
We watched him on TV, yeah. And it was really nice because afterwards, it was one of the first times that I actually got to talk to anybody that knew my dad during that time of, his life, because obviously I wasn't around. And my dad didn't really talk a lot about it. I mean, I'd ask him questions, but he didn't really talk about it, mostly because I think there's a lot of alcohol involved.
But he told me, but I can't tell you.
But it was just nice to see that, so many years afterwards, there's still that camaraderie. There's still that, cohesiveness of purpose. And it's really very, very poignant to see it on telly, but to see it in person, I don't think I stopped crying the whole time. Not, there is sadness, obviously, but also because everybody's emotional. You just feed off everybody's emotions, don't you, when you're there?
Oh, it was a lovely, lovely day.
And then also, when it comes to you teaching about this, you also have firsthand, experience that you can speak to.
I'm lucky that my great grandfathers, 3 of them served in the Great War, and 3 of them came back. Though one of them died shortly after he came back because of his wounds. But thanks to my Auntie Sheila's sterling efforts in genealogy, we found out that my granddad's cousin, Charles, he never made it back. He was only 21. And he died in July of 1918. So he was like 4 months short the end of the war. And one day we'll get to
go and visit him. Yeah. So this is what I felt. I truly believe, impacted his students, is because he has this personal connection and speaks to us and still gets emotional like he is now, because it means something. Why. No, because it means something. It means something very important. The day that we stop remembering, the day it stops mattering, and then we're just stuck as humanity. Sorry, getting a bit mad there, but I would get very mad. So anyway, we'll go back to the beginning of this, is that we know America they observe these days in different ways.
And they do think well of the veterans.
They do, and they do treat well. I would say, people treat other veterans well.
Yeah. They always say to them, proud of your service, and they get priority boarding on the airlines, and they have a USO in all the airports.
And they're celebrated, at venues and things like that. Yeah. But we just thought it was ironic that we wear the poppies and it came from America in the first place, and they don't know what it is and what it's all about. So we wanted to share that with you. Not bringing on a downer, but just share that with you, that maybe they can bring the poppies back. I know there were some people that we spoke to who wanted to get the idea, the notion of it, because it is, in some respects, a symbol of more of a connection with the rest of the world than just the American flag, isn't it? I think that's the idea behind some of it, is that everybody wears a poppy because in the world it was a massive upheaval for everybody in the world, Anyway.
Considering as you were leaving this to me to do all the talking today, you kind of took it and ran with it.
You do the history bit. I didn't talk that much. My voice is going again.
My tea's empty. And there's a curry down the road with our name on it.
Yes. So as you go through Remembrance Sunday, just have a moment, have a pause. And
on Tuesday at 11 o'clock.
Also, share with us your stories. Yeah. We know we're not the only ones who have, family connections with these conflicts. Yeah. We know that it affects so many people, and we'd love to hear your stories.
Absolutely.
We'd also, if you are not in America, or if you're somewhere else in the world, we'd like to know what you do on this day, just to commemorate this day.
We know about your Anzac traditions. Day, but what do they do in Canada?
yeah,
I'm not sure what they do over there.
Tell us about your traditions. Tell us about what you do in your country to also remember, the fallen soldiers.
Yeah. Right.
Anyway,
like and subscribe, ladies and gentlemen. We're slowly crawling to our 1,000. We'd like to reach 1,000 subscribers, but
we would love to get to 1,000 subscribers.
But we're nearly at that point.
Yeah, so we're gonna go now. We're rambling. Sorry. Cheers for now. We hope you all have a lovely weekend.
Yeah.